Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast, The Cozy Quiet Roads. I am your host, Joel, and this is the pilot episode, so welcome. I just want to give a preview of the podcast, right? Let's start with the name. So, why did I name the podcast The Cozy Quiet Roads? It's interesting. I've thought about a lot of names, and I've actually talked to Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT for the names. But the emotion I wanted to evoke with this podcast was as if you and I were on a road talking to each other, and it's a cozy, quiet road, right? I mean, I like cozy, quiet place. It can be my home, my couch, or a road. I just put road because I think it's. I like to take walks, and hence the name roads. I think you get it. But yeah, I think that's the kind of emotion I wanted to give up. That hey, it's a cozy, quiet road, and we're gonna talk about something fun or something deep or something naughty. I don't know, but that's about the name. And then, what are we gonna discuss in this podcast? I think everything. I don't want to put any limits to this. It's about life. It's about romance. It's going to be about love. It's going to be about freedom, career, education, everything else. So it's pretty open ended. Of course, I don't want to discuss my personal life here, but apart from that, I think it's going to be about everything. And then we go on to the question of why am I even. There are a lot of reasons, maybe a couple of them. So on the internet, there's a lot of shallow content. Like, I mean, you go on Instagram and then you start scrolling all these reels that are like 15 seconds, 20 seconds. They're not so deep, right? I don't think they contribute anything meaningful to you as an individual or to me as an individual. I don't think I gain any value out of it, right? Except some dope. And I think as I grew up from a child to maybe an adult now, I'm 23 years old. One thing I realized was I think I'm going through a journey. All right, I don't think of course, I'm not at the end of the journey, and obviously, I'm not at the start of the journey. So it's a long journey, and as I go through it, one thing I do realize is there is a lot I learn, and I know there is a lot to learn, but no one has ever taught me these things. For example, hey, how do you deal with a breakup? What is a breakup? How do you deal with your ex girlfriend after a breakup? I mean, I'm sorry, I just got a breakup, so I'm talking about breakup a lot. But you get the point, right? How do you deal with your finances? How do you deal with your family? Obviously, I mean, these are my perspectives. I'll try to be as broad as I can. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think there's a depth of content that is deep and talks about issues in depth. That's the aim of this podcast, to kind of fill the gap, to kind of talk about these topics in detail from the fundamentals and really think about them and think through them. So, yeah, I think that's one of the motivations for this. The kind of treatment I would like to give this podcast is it's a log of what I'm thinking. But at the same time, I don't want to make it really personal and bring out my personal issues here. That's not the point. But if I can bring out a derivative of my personal life, which is what I'm learning in my personal life, and talk about it and maybe discuss through with it, I think over time we're going to have a lot of data points. And I think that would serve me, or maybe anyone watching, as a healthy guide to look up to, I think, in times of need. As an example, maybe let's talk about, okay, I don't know, like on top of my head, hookup culture, all right? So I've been growing up in India and never was exposed to hookup culture and never really gave it a solid thought. But in my life, I think at some point I needed to give a very serious thought about it because, okay, someone I knew was doing it, maybe. So that really bothered me for a long time because I was never exposed to it. I searched online and I found a really good video about hookup culture that was in depth, right? I mean, they were sharing their experiences. I think that really opened up a lot of perspective for me. So I think content of that style, which is deep and talks about issues, is not so frequent online. So yeah, that's one way to look at it. It's a log of my learnings, but online. I'm putting it on. But also, I can come up and reflect on my old recordings, and maybe we can settle in some local minimas on perspectives. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do, right? Have content that is deep and talks about the real issues. That's not coded, right? And I want to offer my perspectives at the same time, be broad and open and learning. So have enough data points so that I can look back, or maybe in future, maybe there's an algorithm to kind of ask questions or index into my recordings. I don't know, whatever. And also the other thing I want to mention is I think the the fame or money is not the motivator. I really don't want this podcast to be famous. I want to have a group of audience that are maybe in hundreds, if that's fine, but are really rigorous about this. And I hope to create a community where maybe I can talk about this and maybe they'll give me some perspectives and kind of evolve. Maybe that's a very far fetched. So yeah, I think yeah, that's broadly why I started this podcast, right? To kind of have deep content online, and then have enough data points for me to kind of look back in time. I really love doing that. I journal a lot. Not a lot, but I think whenever I'm having a rush of emotions, usually it's on the extremes, whether I'm very sad or very happy, that's what I journal. But this is more about what I think about life and what I'm learning. So that's that. And then the plan, I plan to release 2 episodes per week. Let's see, this is the first one. Hopefully, we can keep up with that plan. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but let's see. And then, okay, so a little shout out to someone who inspired me to do this in the first place. It's Emma Chamberlain. If you don't know Emma, I think you should totally check her out. She's very cool. I love her podcast, Everything Goes. She's the biggest inspiration to this podcast. Yeah, so this, I think if you're watching it on YouTube, is not going to show my face. But I'm planning to also release podcasts on YouTube with my face while I'm talking. Pretty similar to how Emma does that. So yeah, hope you enjoy the content, and hope I enjoy the content. I think one of the biggest motivators, I keep telling this to myself, that, oh, I'm not doing this for anybody else. If I'm doing this for myself. I think that's one way I'm going to look at this. I hope you're going to enjoy this. Until then, good night, take care, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.